Okay, so a viewer of mine wanted to see a takedown video of a bird of prey. This is the short barrel version of the bird of prey called LT. It's called LT because it's long shot turreted. You can actually put a turret on it. I took the turret adapter off and I wanted to do that so it wouldn't snag or hit anybody. And the front's made of plastic for tomorrow's Armageddon game. And I noticed that my bias of my plunger tube is a little off, so I'm gonna equal this out. But while doing that, I can fulfill what they wanted to see. So first off, let's take off the barrel, which is a brass coupler, as so. Okay. Okay. Now this screw is normally this screw, but it gets turned to this, and you see this post where this is you can punch a screw through and make it threaded. So that it helps with moving the plunger tube up. So then you can use a spacer on this right here and move your long shot plunger head up all that way, and you can actually use larger caliber springs in terms of wire gauge. One of my big problems with my vids is I'm just, well, limited by funds, basically. I don't have like the greatest camera or the greatest this, and every time I try to do something better, it doesn't quite work out. So on this blaster, what you're best off doing, and this is the way to service a bird of prey, is you split it up as so, and you move the plunger tube off. There's the plunger retainer, and we're going to get this down. So I'm taking out the plunger tube right now. I don't want to grab it from the brass. So what I do is I spread the two out like so. When I do an adjustment on a bird of prey, I usually service it from the front, just like this. I part the two shells, and it can be a little difficult to get out, as you can see, because it catches when you're trying to get it out. Catches those two little poles. There we go. There we are. Okay. And so right here we have the plunger head and the plunger tube. And all this really is a plunger tube that's from a long shot that's cut down, and it is reinforced with basically a type of fiber tape right here, and that's all glued, all completely round. So this is tougher than nails right here. So there's your breech. You can see the hole that you usually have for your long shot breech, and then the inside of it, you take off the cap and you only have the front part, so that it has full compression all the way to there. So you don't have this big space in the front. So if you have this big space in the front, that just wouldn't go. Then you take a piece of 9/16 right here. You hone it right around there, and you glue it in with crazy glue, and you glue this with crazy glue. And I use a little bit of silicone caulking in the inside of it, although that's actually grease and silicone caulking right there. But my silicone caulking is a lot smoother because I let it sit like that overnight. And then that's how you make your plunger tubes right there. Very small. I mean, that's about 60 cc's right there. But for a pistol, that's epic. That's for a little draw pistol. That's epic. And so then that is just held in like so. These are apart. And what happens is that this holds this together and makes it so. So let's look at the assembly right here. As you see, the way that I assemble these, I assemble them so you can service them from the front, so that when you're putting this whole assembly in right here, you can actually just take out the whole thing, and you can take a big long screw and you can unscrew it. So let me go get a torque screw for that. Hold on a second. So we're back to the bird of prey. As you can see, I got it open. I got the plunger tube out. So this is a really weird blaster because it is actually built so to assemble it, you have to actually screw the plunger tube on when it's like this. Okay, and this makes it so your brackets, your spacers, your springs, they're all lined up when you do it. But it also makes it so you can put very heavy duty springs, have them way out to here, and then just torque on this while you're doing it, and it compresses it for you. So putting in a spring on a blaster is not hard. On this blaster, it's not hard to do. You can put in springs that are 7 inches, 9 inches long if you wanted to. You just compress it down like this. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Here, this is a T20 Torex right here, and that is a number 10 Torex screw, 2.5 inches long. Watch this. This is fascinating. No one's ever done anything like this before. On a long shot plunger tube, and there have been long shots with like up to 30 kilograms, which is actually what this is. This is 30 kilograms. You use a lot less screw. This thing uses all of that, dude. All of that. Look at that. Big ass Torex screw right in there. Got a couple of bonded neoprene washers. And then from here, I can just take my plunger head off. Now this is a long shot plunger head, but you may notice a couple things. Okay? Number one, it's sealed with a lot of neoprene washers. I got two O-ring seals right there, and there's black Teflon tape around it. So it was a type of Teflon tape that was black. But you may notice that the back is completely flat in the back, with exception of a little bit of crown right here. See this little hook, hook, hook? That's for the outer plunger. That's for the outer spring, which is a standard long shot spring on the outside. But the inside springs are brutal. And then I have a little aluminum spacer, 430 spacer right there. That's my spacer for the inner spring. But it's brutal, okay? Okay, now you can see there's 4 springs here. One is just the spring for this. What happens is, and I told you this was adjustable, this goes into here, it goes over that spring, but it makes it so the spring can be moved, this can be moved forward and back to adjust my spring tension bias. So if I want a little bit more open of coils, I just move this up a little more. It also costs me volume, because when it's all the way pulled back, it's going to not go back far like this, it's going to go back like that. So it makes it so that I can adjust the volume, but it also makes it so I can adjust the spring spacing. And as you can see, there's quite a bit to be concerned about there. So from here, let's remove the springs. You're going to be quite gawked at the springs, and if you don't know, I mean, really, if you're not experienced, don't try this, because this is a very specialty blaster right here. Okay, so we have a full, and you notice the springs don't get overly compressed. They don't take a set. They don't take a lock. They don't bunch together, because that's completely adjustable. And I have them so the spring coils are just touching. So there's a stock long shot spring right there, about 3 kilograms. But that's just the outer spring, and I use that to add a little more power to it. If I want to add a lot more, I would throw a 6 kilogram Orange Modworks or an 8 kilogram Orange Modworks. The L has an 8 on it. Okay, so then let's look at the inner spring assembly. Let's see if we can get this out in one piece. I think we can. Alright, so this is the inner spring assembly cartridge. It is 2 springs. It is a number 62 Hillman on the inside, which is around 18 kilograms, and it is a and you can notice that the outer spring, which is 11 kilograms, look at that. It's a lot softer than the inner one. The inner one's that's a tough ass spring, and all the ends are ground flat right there. That's a Home Depot 7/8 spring right there. It's got a pole cap, a 3/4 pole cap, but look how I take the pole cap and I twist that around the coil just perfectly. And then that one has to be held in, but the inner spring is just snapped in there. And it's ground flat on both sides. It's level on that side, so when it pushes in, it doesn't move around or dance or bunch. That right there is about 29 kilograms. That's a lot. That is a 29 kilogram array right there. So I guess that is more like 32. But the thing is that it doesn't have the kick of the L, and I'll tell you why. Because it's made to be short barrel. Basically, it's made so that this doesn't extend so far out that when the dart passes out here, the plunger doesn't slam into this and go wham, you know. The L's like that, where the inside spring is actually put a spacer on. It's the same size as the inner spring, this thing, but the outer spring is only a 8 kilogram Orange Mobwork spring that's that long, which in actuality is actually more like 10 kilograms. So I've got 18 kilograms and 10 kilograms. You got 28. It's actually less force, but when it's hitting the plunger, it's 14 kilograms. But since the barrel on it is longer, it can use that longer space and not do it. This one was made more for safety. Okay, I got shorter barrel, which means that I don't want it to bust this. And look at this. I've been using this for a long time, and look at what good condition this plunger's in. I've been using this for a few months, and it's still just in great condition because I didn't overdo it on the spring length. I used a short, strong, powerful spring core rather than a long one with a spring, like a spring that's that diameter in gauge, but that on the L, because it has a longer barrel. And therefore I want as much post compression on here as possible, so when the dart hits the end of the barrel and it's trying to compress a little bit of air that's left, it's not losing to the air, it is forcing the air out. This one's a different goal. That's what an LT really is. An LT is made for a shorter draw assembly, so that a shorter spring assembly, so it can use shorter barrels and use it safely. Now you can see the coil there. That's again for the plunger. Here, let me explain this a little better now that I got the springs off. A little easier to see. So when you got this in here, it's completely adjustable. Like totally. Okay? It's a $135 blaster. Well, now you're going to see why it's $135. Okay. So here we are. We got our plunger rod assembly right here. Yeah, that is a stock plunger rod. And as you can see, it holds up rather well. Look at the catch on there. Perfect. It's in perfect shape, other than a little bit of curving and contouring I've had to do to make the springs work perfectly. Okay, so if you press on this, see, let's say that's where your spring stops right there. Okay, but if you screw it down more, it'll stop right there. See? And with that, you can see where the catch is. The farther that catch is, that's the amount of closed space you have for the springs. Now, if I'm all the way down here, okay, then that shrinks. And that makes it so this could be tighter. So you can actually tune up the blaster to fire optimally once the springs are in. This system also makes it so instead of having to cram the whole shell together, put it together and do it with an impossible spring load, you can actually just load everything from the front, get this in, and then bunch your springs as you do it, as I'm going to show you later on how that's done. Okay. It is a weird way of doing it, but guys, it works. I've built 5 blasters this way, and man, I tell you, it works. Okay, so we're going to take apart the entire shell now. Just using a normal Phillips. Only screw that's Torx is that front screw I showed you guys. Okay. Alright, so there it is, right there. Now, a lot of this is very much the same, except for the shell, of course. Okay, as you can see, it's got a much stronger spring load. This is actually a catch spring for a retaliator barrel detent. And the outer spring is a spring I got from a Hillman spring pack from Home Depot, which I cut down. And yes, it's dual spring. That's about 6 kilograms right there. But look at the catch, guys. Look at that. Still just in great shape, even with all that spring. Still in great shape. You can see that that's a normal catch. The only thing I did on it was I beveled the inlet right here. If you can see it, I beveled that so it would go over better. Yeah, that little bit holds all that power. That's amazing. And I mean, this high density polyethylene that they make these out of, it's incredible. This is why I like Rebel blasters so much. They're incredible. Alright. Now, if you're building one of these, you got to know what to trim down. So, on this, now put in mind this is just custom the way I build it. You have to shave off this entire area, and you want it so that the plunger tube rests here, 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 here. you have to file these two right here, and you have to cut this little edge down here, 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 and here, here. Okay, you need to cut this channel out right here, and you need to cut this whole area out so that the plunger tube sits in there as so. Okay, so you can see it right there. I got the plunger tube supported by that, and I don't have to really worry about the plunger head, because the plunger head's not going to go past that point. But you have to measure out where the plunger head's going to end, and I say don't get wildcat about it, because this is actually pretty good. So as you can see, it's held by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's held in by 10 points. 10. Because I forgot about these two too. So it's held in by 10 points. This is made so that when the plunger head fires, it lets in air on these two sides. And believe me, it's not on a Springer, it's not just the air it's putting out. It's the air that it's sucking in that you have to worry about. And a lot of people I see in the modding community neglect that. A lot of noobs, they seem to neglect that. They forget that the air goes both ways. So that is basically it right there. You have to break this tab right here. You need to get rid of this tab, this locking tab, because you're not even going to have a normal plunger tube anymore. You need to file down this part, but not so much, because this little nub right here makes a really nice support for your plunger tube. And you basically have to get rid of this notch over here. You need to get rid of it entirely on this side, and then you need to use this, drill a hole into there so that you can put a screw in here. So now you're using these two as screws, which in my opinion just the way it should have been designed to begin with. You gotta take your trigger, you gotta shorten this little edge right here. But other than that, no, well, you're a dancer, you're cool. It should be able to take just fine. I'm gonna do my little adjustments and then put it back together. So see you in a bit. Back. I did a little bit of filing work right here, because this just wasn't sitting perfectly. So now we're going to put this beast back together. Okay, so how do you do that? My plunger rod, my catch, right here. I got my screw right here. I got my washer here. Okay. Now you're going to see quite a few cool things. Now, take note of the cutout design on the inside. What's chopped down, what's not. There's the original penciling for it right there. Okay, this is just, honestly, file this down. It's trial and error. I've never gotten them absolutely perfect. But you do want these to squeeze against the tube a little. Even if it bulges out a little, it makes it more accurate, because it makes it so now this doesn't wiggle around when you fire, and you got a much higher degree of accuracy. So it's gonna look a little silly, guys. It's gonna look a little silly how I actually do this. Okay, so first you want to take your top piece there and over here, as so. Actually, you know what? I want to do this first. Okay, make sure the notch side is in the back. That's this flat side right there. And you want to just put in the plunger rod. Now you're gonna notice. Now look at where it is straight. Now let's say that's straight on right there. I want to see if you guys can notice this. Do you guys notice something really weird about this blaster? The way I designed it, because you're using a bigger plunger tube, and that of course forces the center of the plunger tube lower, is it actually has a negative plunger rod angle. Where a lot of blasters suffer from too high an angle, and that makes it catch less effective. This one actually has a negative angle, and it makes the catch more effective. And you can see how over time this got worn in, and what it does is it makes it so it can hold much more yield. If you're holding at a negative angle, the more pressure's on it actually helps the catch engage better, not engage less. It's kind of like the messenger or the hammer shot, how it's actually held in by the pressure of the spring. Well, this is partially held in by the pressure of the mainspring. Very, very small amount, but it makes it so it has better functionality. So you need to take this catch spring, and this may take a few tries to get right. And you need to get it so that it's inside of here, as so. Okay. Not easy because the bigger spring has to go outside and the smaller spring has to go inside. And you got to get that right, and that's not easy to do. Hold on. Now the way I do it with the front loading, you usually don't have to mess with your spring catch once you have established this whole back area. You can usually just service the whole thing from the front, the springs, everything. Only when I throw a catch or I need to do something like sand that down, make it more flat, do I need to really care. Okay, there's that. And you want to get that perfectly level, like so. Then you test the spring, and put in mind that's a lot of force. Okay, that's a lot of force on there. That's 6 kilograms. That's probably 12 pounds, 12.5 pounds or so. That's a lot. Okay, then I need to. Ooh, well, what am I doing? Yeah, that's just cosmetic, but I have it on there anyway. Then I want my trigger, which maybe I should have done first. And you want to do it like so. Yeah, I should have done that first. Okay, hold on. Put that trigger there. Make sure the catch is facing up, no matter what you do. Make sure that's pushed forward. Yeah. I really hope more people attempt to make one of these, but I'm just warning you right now. This thing is a challenge. It's like a Formula 1 car. Okay. Now, I know I forgot to mention it when I had it open, but you saw that catch plate inside, how it just goes up all the way over here. Well, that's up all the way over here and arched. So this is one reason why you can hold a massive spring loader better than a Night Finder or a Fire Strike or any other. So when people say, oh, well, can you Bird of Prey a Fire Strike? No, you can't Bird of Prey a Fire Strike. And the reason you can't Bird of Prey a Fire Strike is because the damn thing just does not have the kind of, you know. Okay, so that's at full close right there. Look at that massive spring plate back there. It's a double layered. It's this hard derivative of ABS. You want to test that to make sure that's so. Okay, so my next move at this point is to take the metal spring, catch right there. And when I do that, I put it all the way back. Why do I do that? Simple reason. I want to make sure that this square notch and that square part of this plunger rod lines up, or else it will jam on you. So you're gonna see this. It's gonna be real neat what I'm about to do. Okay, so the middle spring area, which is usually on my blasters, it's like a cartridge, holds up back to about there. Okay, there's that. And now I'm going to put in my long shot spring, as so. I think if I ever manufacture one of these, and I do want to make a metal version of this, these posts are going to be removable. So they're probably just going to be like nylon spacers or something. So by doing this, I'm making it so the square part of the plunger rod, because you got to remember, a Rebel has it's not like a Fire Strike or a Night Finder. Lines up the square part of the plunger rod of the spring rest on there. Ah, shit. Okay, so now I'm gonna take my plunger head like so, and I'm gonna take my my number 10 by 2.5. I'm gonna throw it through the plunger head like that. Now watch this. This is gonna be interesting. I release the catch, and I line the spring into this aluminum spacer right in here. Yeah, I'm gonna lose this piece of. I'm gonna lose that, and for the reason of I have a good seal right there. Come on. All right. Okay. So then I take this screw right here. I throw it into the center right here, and I line it up the screw into this hole right here. Now this plunger rod has a nice big 1/8 inch hole on it. It's really beautiful, and I just do that. Okay, so we're gonna release that from that. Watch this. Watch this. This is so beautiful. This is my favorite part of this blaster. Now, put in mind, that spring load, that could be anything, man. I could put, as long as the catch can hold it, as long as I got a strong enough catch to hold it, that spring could be a big old, 3mm gauge spring. I just got to make sure the springs line up. So from here, you can sit here, and this is open in the front too, and you can make sure that your springs are lined up. Okay, so I got my spring lined up to my fingers there. Spring spacing is extremely important on a bird of prey. It's everything. It makes it so, that limited amount of space can catch and draw whatever you want. Now, that could be a big 3mm gauge like the bird of prey R has, which uses the same system. That's a everybody wonders how I got that freaking 40-kilogram spring in there. Over time it's set. Now it's about a 25-kilogram spring, but I put a black tactical spring in there. Now the whole thing's about 35K. You wonder how I got it in there? Like that. Just like that. Where I can use a long screw to line up and bunch the whole thing together. Okay. Just like that. Look at that, guys. Look at that. There it is. That's the whole assembly. Now, of course, I gotta tune it up a bit once I get it together, like you saw in that Bird of Prey R video, or if you didn't, go look at it, where I was tuning up the R by adjusting that screw right there. Just a couple little spaces at a time. Now I take this right here. There's my plunger rod and my plunger tube assembly, and I'm going to take the plunger tube assembly and land it right there, just like that. Now go ahead, I land that back like so. Look how everything just clicks together. So this top part is also also loaded in there. Okay, just like that, man. Just like that. There it is. Now, as you can see, I got to do some adjusting to knock it back to where it was. Where? Yeah, it was that screw, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay. Put in my 2 front screws to anchor it. Okay. There it is. There it is. That's it. That's a Bird of Prey LT, which is a model for all the Bird of Preys. The ones for the L and the R are usually slightly longer plunger tubes. They go about back here. Gives a little more cc's for the longer barrels. But this one's of course made for short. Now you can see with the spring spacer up how the plunger head is up a bit too. And can it go farther back than that? Oh yes it can. Okay. So we got that to prime. So I'm going to turn it about half a turn. Just like a little bit at a time, yeah. Okay. So we heard how the spring was rattling in there a bit. because it wasn't tight enough. That's better. And a little bit more. So now this is because of the variable height plunger head by that spring and that bracket and the screw, which basically make it so that this space is adjustable. So I can sit here, and you see how that plunger, you see how that just moved? Yeah. We didn't, well, I'm in the middle of adjusting. I can't do that again, but I'll show you on the next one if you didn't see it. And I just very slowly just prime it, let the spring settle, and then I release the pressure. Just very slowly, okay? Alright, here. There's that screw hole. Now watch the draw handle. Watch. Very slightly moved. So I'm moving the plunger head back, which makes it so the springs are more compressed and I can finally tune it. And believe me, that can make the difference between 180 feet per second and 230 feet per second. And really look at that zebra stripe pattern between the 3 springs in there. Oh yeah. So one of my Facebook friends wanted to see it. There you go. You can see the plunger head bolt right there. Nice big heat treated Torx bolt. And by the way, the Torx bolts are a lot better than the Phillips heads. They're dramatically better. So, anyways, I'm gonna finish tuning this up, and I'm gonna throw this on YouTube, and I'll see you later. Peace out.